Once upon a time, there's a place called Apperu, where there are many chiefdoms coexisting together. Each chiefdom has its own distinctive characteristics. The Ranamagians located in the middle are addicted to a magical potion called Leäh, a yellowish liquid that smells like old feet. But they believe that this drink is the best in the world and healthier than any others. So when they were in war with the others, everyone was drinking this instead. The two chiefdoms located in southwest form a cultural ties because trading activities and cultural exchange have been observed. The production of a special kind of food called Azak is a trace of this knowledge transfer between them. Azak is made from an animal body liquid, and both cultures believe that the longer this liquid is stored, the better it tastes. So the Agnavian will store it so long until the liquid gets crystallized, and then with blue dots on it because it's rotten. And the Eulatians will store it even longer until there are worms living inside. On the other side of Rhine-Emmerich is a very superstitious and mysterious chiefdom called Erztua. They still practice witchcraft. For example, if the children behave badly, they believe that the child is bewitched. Then, on the 12th month of the solar calendar, a shaman would dress like a monster called Sotmark to chase after the kid and beat him up to get rid of the demon inside them. Also, once per year, the Erzualians would gather around and perform a giant ceremonial ritual called Leidenschaft to pray for warmer weather. As my passion is traveling and exploring new places and cultures, I took the chance to visit all these fascinating places. And actually today, I'm standing on the land of Erztua in Apperu. In another word, Austria in Europe. Yes, I've been describing Europe with my eyes the whole time. I was only spelling other countries, food names, and traditions backwards. Leäh and beer, Azak and cheese, Sotmark, campus, and Leidenschaft fashion. This shows how shocking, exotic, and strange Europe can be to the outsiders. In fact, this shock does not limit to food and culture and customs. During a longer stay in another place, a lot of social and ideological shocks will come up. These conflicts will result in a very unpleasant feeling, which is cultural shock. Cultural shock is defined as the depression and anxiety experienced by many people when they travel or move to a new social and cultural setting for a long term. This shock can be expressed or reflected through the tiniest things in everyday life. For example, some of my friends from Hong Kong do not feel comfortable going out here in Europe. For them, it's especially shocking to engage in daily conversations because Europeans are so open to talk about topics related to sex, whether jokingly or referring to their private life, among friends, and even with their parents. And while it is a taboo topic in Hong Kong, the main theme today is exploring passion. And passion in German is Leidenschaft, which is a very interesting word because the first part of the word Leiden actually means to suffer. That can be applied perfectly to my talk today. In order to enjoy the beauty of traveling and exploring other cultures and getting to know another place very well, one needs to first suffer the harsh stage of cultural shock. Today, I'm going to talk about how to turn Leiden into Leidenschaft and how to turn cultural shock into intercultural understanding. I'm from Hong Kong, a former British colony. People usually imagine it to be a cosmopolitan that's very international. And it's right that our lifestyle is already very much westernized. However, the majority of the society is still bounded by a set of traditional values. In the next part, I'm going to use a couple of examples from my own personal background, and my observation and experience in Europe to show you what I've learned from cultural shock. Social interaction is unavoidable when going to another place. Sometimes, even mastering the local language would not prevent cultural shock from happening if one is not familiar with the local cultural rules or the taboos. I still remember the first time when I came to Germany when I was 18 years old. On the evening before I left, my host's parents gave me a really beautiful, nicely wrapped present. As I recall, they really wanted to see me open the present, and instead, I took the present, thanked them, and put it aside. I only opened the present secretly the next day when I was on the train as I left. The reason why I did that because it is considered to be disrespectful to open a present in front of the person who gives it to you in Hong Kong. Only badly raised children would do that. And my parents have beaten me up when I was young because of doing that. It is acceptable to punish your own children that way in Hong Kong. It was only after 2 years that I realized I should have opened it immediately because the present giver would love to see the reaction of the receiver and share the joy together. But it was too late, and I felt regretful of not informing myself better before. However, even until today, I still feel uncomfortable opening presents in front of the others because I feel like I'm doing something wrong according to my own culture. The present unwrapping time on Christmas might be a time of joy for you. For me, it's a puzzling cultural shock. How should I behave when I open a present? What if I don't like it? Should I pretend that I like it? What are the appropriate comments to make? And when others open my present, do they really like it or are they just pretending? In order to settle the anxiousness inside me, I took initiative to identify the shock and the problem, observe others closely what they are doing, and try to act the same way. Apart from social interaction, let's talk about work attitude. Here in Europe, many people will assume that I'm very hardworking and that I'm good at school because I look Asian. But do you know, to us, it's the other way around. We think that Europeans are not hardworking at all. Before I left for my exchange year in Switzerland, some friends came to me and say, "Hey, it's time for you to kick others' ass in Europe." Because they think European students are so lazy, and that's why it's easy to get higher grades than them in the university. Now, I'm doing my PhD in Germany, and facing this huge stress to finish my doctoral thesis within 3 years. It's really shocking to see some German colleagues who insist to only work on weekdays and not on weekends. After seeing how children are raised here, I understand why. Here in the kindergarten, children just play outside, roll in the mud. They don't seem to need to learn anything. Unlike in Hong Kong back home, we even need to take an interview to get into the kindergarten. I can still recall my own interview. The principal of the kindergarten first asked me some questions, mathematical questions like, what is 2 plus 4? And I could handle them very well. And then he pointed at an orange and asked me to name the color in Chinese. And I also answered very quickly. Then he asked me how to call this color in English. Orange, I said confidently. Very good, he said. How do you spell orange? There, I was stuck. I felt like a strong punch into my face because I did not know the answer. And that was an interview I took when I was 3 years old. On top of academic performances and also learning these new languages, children in Hong Kong also need to take a lot of hobby classes, like ballet dancing, piano playing, violin playing. I was a part-time piano teacher in Hong Kong, and my youngest student was just 1 year old. Her mother requested me to teach her piano playing in English so that she can learn English and piano playing at the same time, to equip her for school interviews and consequently a bright future. After hearing all these stories, would you still make fun that Asians are very hardworking? I think that stereotypes exist because there's a certain reality in it. But they only are fragments of the reality and they cannot represent the whole. So it is important to develop a deeper understanding of the social and cultural background that construct that stereotype and image before simply putting them and labeling them to the others. If we have an in-depth knowledge about another place, the shock will be reduced and the differences will become more understandable. So we need to talk, communicate, and share our feelings instead of judging the others blindly. The experience of cultural shock might be unpleasant, but it highlights cultural diversity. Without cultural shock, the world would be very boring and homogeneous. Through cultural shock, we understand our own lack of knowledge about another place. It does not only help us to understand and learn about the cultural logic of another place, it also helps to erase the unnecessary cultural judgments. I treasure every cultural shock that I come across in Europe because each of them gives me a hint to piece back together the exotic Apperu in my head to Europe. So it's time to confront cultural shock. Keep observing, reflecting, and sharing our feelings with the others. That way, we can turn cultural shock into intercultural understanding. Thank you.